everyone, it's Kristen from Swagger Magazine, and today I'm here with Raine Maida, lead singer of Our Lady Peace. Raine, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, since I last saw you, Our Lady Peace was on a full tour. You guys released a new album, and you just toured with the Smashing Pumpkins for a few Canadian dates. Tell me about how all that's been going for you in a post-COVID world.
Yeah, it's been crazy. It's been nice to get back to normal. And normal, I just mean like getting in a bus and doing a bunch of shows in a row. Some stresses, of people still kind of getting sick here and there, but I think for the most part, we kind of made it through everything. And just to be back in, arenas and theaters with fans is, you don't know how much you miss it until it's actually taken away for a few years. So I think everyone's on a big energy high right now, coming off all these shows. I mean, we just finished with the Pumpkins in Quebec City a few nights ago. So been amazing.
That's amazing. Now you're not even slowing down. You're doing another tour in December with your wife, Chantal.
Yeah.
Now, tell me about this tour. Tell me about the music that you guys are making. I know you kind of mentioned last time I saw you.
Yeah, so we filmed a documentary in 2019 about the making of our first album together. Chantal's written for, Drake and Kendrick, and we've produced together, but we've never really written together for us. And so finally, in, a few years right before COVID, we decided we needed to do that. So we filmed the documentary. We had to leave LA too because it's just too hectic, like dogs and kids and phones ringing and people coming to the door to make music here. So we went to this small island off the coast of Canada. It's owned by France. It's called Saint Pierre and Miquelon, and we kind of holed up there for a few weeks and wrote all the songs. And then we came back to LA and recorded them at Rick Rubin's studio called Shangri-La in Malibu. But the documentary is really interesting. It gets into the music for sure and collaboration, but also touched on a lot of relationship stuff, because anytime two people as intimate as Chantal and I are get into a room to write songs, other shit's gonna come up, obviously, personal stuff. So it's kind of a fascinating exploration on, partnership and collaboration and music and stuff. And so we didn't get to tour it properly during COVID. And so now we're literally in the studio now making a new album, and hopefully we're gonna, debut a bunch of those songs on this Southern Ontario run that we're doing in December.
That's so exciting. So this is going to be for that album that you guys had previously recorded in the documentary.
Yeah, and we haven't, like I said, we haven't really been able to do a proper tour coming off that album, that documentary. So this might be the first time that people get to hear the songs from the film live. And then we're going to play, a few of these new songs. And we always do different arrangements of our own stuff. We'll do a piano arrangement of Clumsy or 4am and In Repair. And Chantal does a bunch of her, her kind of hits in a different way with me as well. So I think it's just this really interesting show that people walk away from going, I had no idea, and we fight on stage and laugh and all that stuff too. It's not a typical show.
I love it. That's awesome. Now, tell me, have you toured together before, or is this kind of a first?
We have. We've definitely done some small tours. This is 15 shows in a row. Might be the biggest thing we've done so far.
Cool.
Yeah, but again, it's very intimate. It's a perfect date night, because the couple stuff that happens on stage is, like I said, sometimes it gets a little intense, but it's usually funny. And sometimes we talk more than we play music, which is crazy to say out loud, but it's kind of the way the show goes.
That's awesome. I think that people will really, really enjoy that.
Yeah.
We're excited. I know we've touched on this before, but Web3, NFTs, you are heavy involved in that kind of business, I guess you could say. I don't know what's the correct word to...
My fascination and hope for that Web3 space is it's all about ownership and portability. So I think, NFTs have kind of a bad name right now, but Web3 and what an NFT does, being minted on the blockchain, it's going to take over most industries. And at some point, you already won't even know what the technology is behind it, but it'll just be better and safer and more transparent, whether it's a house deed or your bank account or music, possibly. My touch point for the last few years with NFTs and music has been about artists finally getting the chance to own their audience, because what we've done as musicians is build communities on secondary platforms. So it was MySpace back in the day, and then they went out of business, and it was Facebook, and that's not cool anymore. Instagram and TikTok and Snap and all these, and even Patreons and things like that. But truly, we don't own our audiences. These companies make billions of dollars, have built unicorns off of our fan data, and it's not portable. If Instagram kind of misbehaves, or what's going on with Twitter right now, and you're like, you know what, I'm out. I'm not a fan of Elon. I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm saying if someone feels like that and you're like, hey, I got 130,000 followers on Twitter, but I don't like Elon's, messaging right now, you can't just take those fans to another platform, right? They're stuck there. Mm-hmm. Portability comes with Web3. And so for artists, the future is owning those audiences directly and being able to gift and reward and sell to your own community. And if it's not happening somewhere, you should be able to take them somewhere else. So that's what I've been doing with my app drops. The platform drops with 2 R's really is about owning that community for the first time.
How did you originally kind of get involved? Because I know it's still pretty early stages with all of this stuff with Web3 and everything. So it's good that you're getting in early, of course, because just like anything, once people catch on, it's like, not that it's too late, but it's harder to kind of get.
Yeah.
So how did you first learn about it, and what made you say like, yes, I want to get involved and do drops?
I think all good ideas or great ideas at some point, if they turn into that, are born out of like a true pain point, right? A real frustration, not something you think up in the shower, like something that becomes just a burden to whatever you're trying to do. And for me, I've stood on stages for 25 years playing to literally thousands and millions of fans over the years, but they're still mostly anonymous to me. Like 98% of those fans I really can't connect with. I can try on socials, but it gets lost in feeds, and it's just not efficient. So, unfortunately 25 years in, there's finally some technology now with Web3 where it's like, you know what? I can connect directly with those fans, finally own it, take it with me, have it be portable. And so that's really the idea behind drops, is to give artists that power to really like supercharge your audience, where it's your database, it's your direct connection. And through drops, we do like verified emails. So, if you give someone a merch discount with a QR code at a merch table, they're probably going to put in a fake email because they don't want to be spammed, or whether it's some other corporation doing that. But with drops, it's like verified email opt-ins, it's custom push notifications. We're not trying to take the place of any other channels. We want to just create more traffic and expand your audience so you can push them. If it's Patreon that you dig and that's where you make money, we just want to get 10x of the fans that you have, and you can push them to Patreon. And we believe the key to do that is at live events. Like I said, that's where I know anyone that buys a ticket to an OLP show, in my mind, they're a super fan. So I want to treat them like one, and drops allows you to treat the everyday fan like a super fan.
Don't you do digital collectibles too for check-ins? Like I think you did one for Collision. Do you do them for the shows as well?
Yeah, we've kind of built the platform. So whatever an artist is comfortable doing, we can basically satisfy that. And that could be an avatar for your fan base, just something fun and cool that they get for free. It could be a digital poster that they can print later that is verified and has all the attributes of an NFT, whether it's minted or not. It's like a numbered edition. So, you build that exclusivity. We, on the OLP tour, we had a tour pass that was $10 that got you a really cool Unite with Ukraine X OLP, just a really cool design poster. But for $10, you got that. You got a chance to win a VIP experience at the end of the night, and every cent went to Unite with Ukraine, which is a charity my wife's heavily affiliated with. So it was just a win on all ends for the fans, for us, and obviously for Unite with Ukraine as well. So really, we try to do whatever the artists are comfortable with. It doesn't have to be NFTs at all. It can be, things that aren't on the blockchain, and we just help try to make it really super fun and easy for fans and artists.
That's really cool. So you think, and I know because we've talked about this before, but you think that this is an opportunity for artists to really kind of take ownership of everything, of their community, and kind of like create. I mean, right now, artists really don't need labels.
So a label really helps support a little bit, but almost every artist these days is to some extent an independent artist, which is amazing. We have to get through this paradigm shift, but on the back end of it, owning your fans and your audience is what is going to save, you know, artists' careers and actually allow them to prosper more than they were signed to labels.
I saw an interview that you did, and you were kind of talking about like owning masters too, and how it's an opportunity for artists to kind of own their own masters as well, which is a big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean that was like something, you know, Prince talked about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, you know, how key it is to own your masters. And I think that's just a great parallel to owning everything, and including, you know, what Drops is trying to do with owning your audience. You know, finally me being able to like literally wake up today, have a demo of a song and send it out, airdrop it to my fans. Like that's a different kind of connection than we've ever had. And it's different than putting it up on socials. Like it's different than putting it up on Instagram. Me being able to give it exclusively to those fans that are part of that community, rather than passive fans that might see it or might not, that are following you for whatever reason. Like I want, again, it's treating those fans that come to shows as super fans.
I like that. That's really cool. And it gives people like us like the opportunity. So I really love that. Now, would you do a concert in the metaverse? I know obviously it's not ever going to take away live performance, but would you do it?
We almost did. We had one scheduled for the beginning of the OLP Spiritual Machines 2 tour.
Cool.
And we kind of put it on hold because all the data coming back is that people, you know, until it's like ubiquitous so everyone has headsets and are used to it, the numbers for like Guns N' Roses and the Foo Fighters, there just wasn't enough people in there to really take away from our bandwidth on that tour. But I'm a believer. I think at some point it's going to be great for all artists, and definitely another, you know, revenue stream. But do I think it's going to, you know, ever replace live shows? No.
Of course, but it's something that you'd be open to doing for sure.
I love it. I love the idea, you know, whether it's Decentraland or any of these other, you know, kind of metaverses, the ability to go in there and, you know, play in someone's backyard if they bought a virtual plot of land, you know, at the house, or play it like, you know, Undefeated is a really cool kind of streetwear clothing company in Los Angeles and Japan. I don't think they have a store in Canada yet, but like if they bought, you know, a cool store in Decentraland, we could go play in their store. That would be dope. And it's coming for sure.
For sure. Actually, I see Paris Hilton's pretty heavy into all of that stuff. So she does like DJing in the metaverse and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely on its way. Now with technology, you know, you've been making music for over 20 years. And with the newest album, Spiritual Machines 2, I want to know, did the technology change the way you guys make music at all? Do you combine new and old? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, technology was like imperative for the making of this album on so many fronts. One, because recorded a song called Stop Making Stupid People Famous with Dave Siddick, who produced it. He lives out here in Glendale in LA. He's got just a sick studio up in the hills. He's got technology. He's got analog, but also like he uses modular stuff, which is very technologically advanced in terms of what it does. But what happened was after that song was done, we had planned to like kind of continue up there, but COVID hit. So everybody shut it down. We didn't want to stop recording. So the ability just to, you know, trade files and record virtually, you know, Duncan and Jason were in Toronto and Steve and I are here in LA and Dave's, you know, like 15 miles away in Glendale. So it wasn't that difficult. Like I have to say, be able to get on a Zoom, talk about stuff, everyone kind of record their own little parts, send it around. Dave put everything together. He would record things on his own as well. And, you know, it just was like 5 years ago, almost probably impossible. So I've always been a huge fan of technology, and on the recording side, man, we are so far ahead of it. It's amazing.
Do you guys do any writing through Zoom at all?
we don't really write through Zoom, but people will send ideas, and then, you know, we all just take our time with it, tweaking things, adding, pulling things out, send it around. That's kind of a little bit more creative way, I think, to work,
Okay.
where it's, you know, the pressure of like
Hard on Zoom.
being on a Zoom to create. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if that's, yeah.
Yeah, I know for me, Zoom has really changed things for my career doing this. It's so cool. We get to do your interview on Zoom, and it's almost like if this whole pandemic didn't happen and technology wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to do this. So,
oh, absolutely. Like, yeah, the fact that we can look at each other and talk and have like a great conversation like this without having to travel, it's just an easy yes, right?
exactly. Exactly. Now, I want to know, as being a singer myself, someone like you who's been touring for so many years, I want to know how you keep your voice in tip-top shape when you're touring and playing all these shows, because I know that some of your songs are definitely not easy to sing.
Yeah, I mean, I've had such a journey with my voice, and it's changed so much, and it's back finally to a place where I'm really happy with it in terms of it's just little things you don't know. Like I've had asthma my whole life, and on our Clumsy album, I started taking Advair, which is like this purple thing that you take a puff in it, you know. Anyway, for like 10 years, like my voice was just always shot, and then I was like, what is happening? But no one had told me, and the doctor that prescribed it didn't know. But it was like putting a coating on my vocal cords because it's got a steroid in it. I didn't have asthma, which was great, so I can breathe, but it was literally ruining my voice. And I went through 10 years of hell that really no one probably knows about, and I really talk about. And then finally, after I got off that, when we started making a record with Bob Rock and Maui and Gravity, I just felt like, okay, I've got control of my voice back again. And just I was able to become a better singer from that point on. And to be honest now, it literally is sleep. That's the only way for me to get, because I use a lot of falsetto, and I do go in a baritone now as well. So that range for me is pretty wide, and just keeping a clear tone. Tried everything, throat coat and all these different teas and different sprays. Even Dave Siddick gave me one a few months ago, and they're all fine. But at the end of the day, they're not going to save you if you haven't slept enough. And so on the road, I have to get like 9 or 10 hours sleep, and then I'm fine.
Yeah, I feel you. I need that, like, just in general.
Yeah.
Color and sleep, and I'm good.
That's it.
Oh, I will definitely, I mean, I'm already, what am I saying? I'm already like a sleepaholic. So thank you for the tip. I will continue. I will continue to sleep. Now, do you guys do anything before you get on stage, like before pre-stage rituals or anything, or is there anything you like to do?
I mean, there's a little practice going on in the dressing room. Jason's always, on a drum pad and just obviously as a drummer, getting loose and warmed up, and we do little vocal exercises and stuff. But we try to keep it really chill, because I think stepping on that stage takes for us like every ounce of energy. We know we're just gonna leave it all up there. So we don't do too much before, and we just do a little, not really a prayer, but a little, come together right before. Try to honor something that inspires us before we go on stage, whether it's a musician we're fans of or someone who passed away that we know that was inspiring to us, or that we know or has been in our family. Like, it's just anything that makes us kind of think outside of ourselves, but more than anything gives us a little bit of humility before we go on stage. So that, that's a little 10-second ritual we do literally at the side of stage before we walk on.
Love it. I love it. I feel like a lot of artists and bands do that too, which is a nice way to like kind of ground yourself before, calm before the storm kind of thing.
Yeah, and we're not like this rah band. Like, it's not like, a break before, a football play. Ours is, again, like, it's a ritual that really tries to honor someone or something, just to build in that, awareness outside ourselves.
I like that. Do you ever find that when you're singing a specific song that you kind of channel that energy into some songs?
Yeah, you know what? So we'll talk about a song like in Repair. Like, if as you live through this life, you start to know more and more people that are, going through different diseases or passing away or struggling with stuff, mental health or anything physical. definitely some of our songs around events like that and people we know. So Thief and Repair, even Somewhere Out There. Like there's key songs that, you know, we'll kind of make sure we're going to play that night and talk about it right before we go on stage, because of, you know, just that's life. Everyone's going to know someone that's struggling with something. And so again, trying to honor, you know, that awareness is really important to us.
Cool. I know I've told you before that Somewhere Out There is my absolute favorite song. So actually, I want to know, when you were writing that, did it just kind of come to you, or were you sitting at an instrument? How did that kind of come about, that song?
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of, I was listening to Neil Young. We were living in Malibu on the beach, and we're just chilling in the morning, and Neil Young was playing on the deck, and I think I was throwing a stick to my dog in the ocean. It really was borrowed from the verse of Old Man. Not chordally or melody specifically, but the storytelling of Old Man and the feel of it. And then, you know, obviously it gets much bigger in the chorus, but that's kind of how it started. And we were actually on Christmas break and come back from Maui, working with Bob at a studio there. And I wrote that song and Innocent on the beach in that Christmas break during the recording sessions. And when I went back to Maui, I kind of did like small demos, like obviously not worked up with drums, but enough where everyone and Bob could hear, you know, the chord progressions and the melody and what it could be. And really quickly we kind of laid them down. The album was done, you know, almost by the time we got back. And so we just added those two songs at the end.
I'm really glad I asked that question, because those are my two favorite songs of yours. And again, like, it's so cool when a song can last 20 plus years. You know, that's a great song. And I mean, I know you wrote it and you're probably like, oh, Kristen, you know, whatever. But it truly is such a fantastic song. And I listen to it to this day. So, and I remember when I was a kid and I heard it, and now I'm like an adult and speaking to you. So that's kind of just my little nerdy question that I had to ask you, because
I love it. Well, look, I was listening to Neil Young's Old Man, which was at least 20 or 30 years old when I was listening to it before I wrote Somewhere Out There. So music is magical that way.
So maybe I'm gonna have to listen to Somewhere Out There. And
there you go, before you write your next song.
I love it. I want to talk about your super talented family. You know, we have your wife, and then you were telling me that your son is creating music as well. What is going to be next for like the new generation of Maida Kraviazit kids?
It's wild. It's a really interesting time. My son Rowan has an album that's done, so we're gonna probably release it as 2 EPs or maybe even 3 EPs, because he's got like 12 or 15 songs. But he's in a tough spot because he hates TikTok. He hates social media. He hates having to give it all up to people. But as you mentioned before, like, the infrastructure of the music business is not what it was when I started. Definitely, you know, we had a label that paid for videos and tour support, and, you know, so many things that helped us not have to work part-time jobs to kind of like promote ourselves. And so this new generation, it's like, if you're not on socials, I'm not sure how your music is getting heard, which is kind of tough. Double-edged sword. If it works, you own it all 100%, and it's all yours, which is amazing, and you get to keep ownership. If it doesn't, it's easy to get defeated pretty easily, thinking like you're fighting. Like, there's 100,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day. That's a lot. That's a lot of noise to fight through as a new artist, to find your fans. It's just really busy. So I'm curious to see how you know, my kid Ro takes this on. And songs are amazing. He's super talented. Doesn't mean you're gonna have a career these days. So it's a big challenge.
Wow. Well, I'm excited to hear like what he has. Definitely keep us posted about it.
100%.
Now, one of your most loved songs is the song 4 a.m. And a lot of fans know that you guys kind of end with it when performing, I've heard. What is the story of that song, and why do you think that people connect to it so well?
I think it's still, to this day, probably the most personal song that I've ever written, just because I talk about my dad in it, and I talk about, you know, our relationship in really kind of no uncertain terms. Like, it's all out there. Is this something I really want to put out into the world? I love the song. I brought it in again. I went and recorded. I literally wrote it at 4 a.m. That's why it's called that. One night when I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, Chantal, and she was on tour somewhere, and we really couldn't connect for the first year. So we had like these late night conversations every night, and we just kind of almost fall asleep talking to each other, getting to know each other. But we started talking about that relationship with my dad, and I literally hung up the phone and wrote that song. I didn't sleep. I called our engineer at like 7 in the morning. This kid Angelo up in the west side of Toronto where the studio working. I said, hey, can you meet me at the studio? I know we're not supposed to start till 1. Can you meet there at like 10 a.m.? Just want to lay down the song. So I went and laid it down and recorded it and sang it. And the guys came in and I played it for them. And I was nervous to play it for them. Never mind what I was talking about. And they're like, wow. And I said, yeah, I just don't know if this is something that I should really talk about in public. And they all kind of convinced me, including a producer at the time, Arnold Lanny. And they're just like, look, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just honesty, you know, and I think people are going to really connect with the story because this is like everyone's life. So that kind of gave me the confidence to put it on the record. And I think that's why to this day, people still, you know, have a connection to it. And it's like this living, breathing song in the sense of the subject matter of like having a struggle with a parent doesn't ever go away. And it's an evolving thing, right? So yeah, it's an interesting song for sure.
That's awesome. It's almost like the real kind of songs that people can really relate to. Those are the ones that really like kind of,
yeah.
That's really awesome. Now, your songwriting process, I know we kind of touched on this, but do songs kind of just come to you, or do you kind of sit down and try to write?
I try to sit down and either play piano or guitar every day, just more for the therapeutic component of it. You know, like the way strings ring on a guitar, and I've collected some, I've tried to collect guitars that have these really warm tones and are expressive over the years. So when I pick it up and just strum a chord, I just, you know, you just automatically melt into it. Same with the pianos. Like we have 3 pianos in our house. So it's really about inspiration. And if something happens organically, that's it. What I've learned over the years is never to force something. I'm not going to sit down and say, oh, I need to write a song right now.
Yeah.
I have to let it come to me. I have to be an open vessel for it. 4 a.m. was definitely like that. Same with Somewhere Out There. It's just a matter of, you know, again, just being open. And when it happens, and you can't control it. And that's something I think true artists learn to come to terms with. I'm not a pop artist where we have a session at 2 and we got to write a song. That just doesn't work for me.
Yeah, me too. I find most of my best stuff comes from like the sadder elements of my life personally, but I know it can be hard to sometimes not stay motivated, but kind of do it because it's like, oh, I want to write today. You know, I'm feeling something. Do you ever feel kind of stuck in a sense, or like, oh, it's not coming, but you don't want to force it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I come. There's only 2 moods that I write. And it's either whether I'm in like a reflective mood or I'm actually like angry about something. So I think those are like always the catapults into writing something. But again, no matter how far you get with that song or that idea in the moment, I've learned also to like, it's really important to get perspective and objectivity. So thank God for voice notes on iPhones. I just kind of record things and then go back to it like a few days later. And if something strikes me where it's like, okay, that sounds unique or original, or that's a great lyric, or that melody over that chord is really cool, then I go back to it and try to either finish it or just keep honing it. But the songs that just come out and are kind of done, like a 4 a.m. or Somewhere Out There, in the sense of like they're realized really quickly, those are like gifts. Like songwriting is not that easy. Those are things that I almost think like, oh my God, did someone like channel that through me?
Yeah.
But those are things you just, you know, you kind of thank God for, and you're like, awesome. That's not going to happen every time, obviously.
Yeah. No, I've heard some of the best writers or artists that I really like the best. That's kind of how the songs come. They just come to them. I know Justin Timberlake, that's kind of how he writes. It just literally comes. And
yeah, and you have to be open to that. If you're closed creatively or emotionally, like that stuff gets stuck. So I think part of being an artist is understanding about staying open and not letting outside forces kind of like take up too much bandwidth in your creative brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else that we should know?
No, I mean, like I said, Chantal and I have new music coming. We're gonna play some of it on this Ontario tour we have come up in December.
And then the one Quebec show, I saw that on your story too.
Well, yeah, one Quebec show. I keep forgetting Montreal. I love Montreal too. We just played with the Pumpkins. I love that city. It was like 80 degrees. It was incredible. Sure, it won't be like that in December, but I do love that city. So our one Quebec show and then the rest in Ontario. I can't wait to get out there and play. Like when Chantal and I play, it's not, definitely not a jazz musician. I'm not that good, but there's an element of jazz in the way we play where it's, because usually it's just her and I, it's so free. And we can stop a song and argue about something in the middle of it and then just pick it right back up. So that kind of like spontaneity in music, it's a little bit more rare for me. Like OLP is more like this machine, we get up on stage, it's just this thing that happens. It's amazing and there's spontaneity within it, but with Chantal and I, it's literally like from bar to bar, anything can happen, and it's a pretty magical thing.
That's so awesome. And she's so inspiring, by the way. I was looking at her writing credits the other day. I had no idea. She's like an animal songwriter. So you guys are so cool. And I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, she's amazing. Most people don't know of the songs. Like I think even like the Over My Dead Body, the Drake song that she wrote and sings on. Most people we talk to, that's literally their favorite Drake song.
I love that song. And as soon as I put it on, I'm like, oh, that's her singing. So, but I didn't obviously put the two and two together until I was kind of like doing research, and even the Gwen Stefani song and Avril Lavigne and just the list goes on. So, I mean, it's no surprise that your son is, getting some of this talent from you guys. So I'm really,
I guess. Yeah.
Stoked to see.
Part of me wishes he would be a doctor, but he's an artist. Yeah.
Well, at least you're supporting. You got to support that, and I mean, you're an artist, so you get it, right? It's a hard. For us.
Yeah, that's like a life force you can't deny someone. If they have that in them, you have to obviously set expectations, but it's something that it's so critical to pursue. Whether it's a living or not, you have to keep that creative brain going, right? I think most people do. They just have to find what that is. It doesn't have to be music. Yeah. But that balance between creative and critical brains, that's life. Thanks, Chris. It's so good to talk to you.
It was so nice talking to you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
You too. Take care.